Gentlemen, welcome back to the Mecca of Banter podcast. This is Wings here. You can find me at Twitter at LCW21. We got Henry here as well.
Yeah. Henry Wind here. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind. And another great week to be a United fan. And it's just so good.
Yeah. Moving on.
Dubs, gonna throw it to you, brother.
Yeah, it's fair to follow. What's going on, guys? Great to be here. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It's your boy Dobes at CDobes10 on Twitter. Much like Hen said, moving right along. So I think it's time to kick it to our boy Butchie. Butchie, what's going on, brother? Good to see you.
Good to be seen, brother. How are we? It is Bucci Main. Find me on Twitter, Ryan_Butchart. You will not be seeing me tweet anything because Liverpool are shite right now. So my Twitter's silent, but it's great to be here.
Yeah, another team that's over here inhaling and exhaling. Hayfee4 on Twitter. You know what it is. We got 3 points this week, so hey, I'm in a little bit high spirit, so I haven't felt that in a while.
Yeah. What's up, lads? We're back again. It's Hoove here at Young Yid on Twitter. It's been popping off on the burner. Spurs are in the mud. They're going to fire another manager, and we're going to get stuck in the vicious cycle that is Daniel Levy's Tottenham Hotspurs. So, yeah, Winksy.
Awesome. Yeah, and then we also have a special guest today. We mentioned it at the end of last week's pod, but we have Elliot Smith with us today from the ArsenalVision Podcast. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, we tried to line this up, and I was thinking, like, what's the perfect time? And I was like, well, how about right after we've wrecked Spurs in the derby and right before we set the kitchen timer on United's resurgence?
Okay.
Right? So
That's fair.
We've already put Liverpool and Chelsea in our rear view. So, man, this is the perfect time. I'm glad to be here. I'm feeling really good. I got the bourbon flowing and everything's great in life.
That's good to hear, Elliot. And I don't know if you can tell, but my background, I chose one of several photos I had of Rashford scoring on Ben White. So throughout this episode, if I need to switch it, let me know if you're sick of seeing this one.
No, I'm surprised because you had to pick your best player. And so it was either Rashford or the VAR officials. And I don't know how you were able to decide between those two, given that the win you had over us, they've already announced that they got the call wrong, denying Martinelli's goal. And then your Manchester Derby win was aided by, clearly a conspiracy to support United. So
I love it. That's when United's back, though. The refs are back on our side. That's exactly when United's back rolling.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think you're going to need a lot of referee help to survive the match that's coming, but that's another story.
It could be true.
Well, welcome.
I think that's a great transition, though, talking about the referees in that game and that decision, because going back and looking on that call, I mean, come on, guys. It was pretty obvious that he was affecting the play and it should have been called offsides. We can all agree on that, right?
I said it yesterday. I would have lost my mind if that would have happened to United. I would have lost my mind if that would have happened to us. I mean, that rule, I think, is just such a wishy-washy rule to where somehow, it stood, because clearly you can tell it affects just exactly where Ederson's going to be. And I think that's the big one. I don't necessarily know if it affects the two defenders, but you could clearly see Ederson sort of take a step as if Rashford was going to hit it, and then Bruno came. I mean, very happy it stood, but yeah, I mean, absolutely just crazy decision.
I mean, I think that Ake should have just been able to pass through Rashford like a semi-permeable membrane, and the fact that he didn't do that was his fault, and the referees just recognized his failure to just actually turn into an apparition and pass directly through Marcus Rashford. I don't know why he didn't think of that.
Yeah. I was gonna say I've been seeing a bunch of stills, and they literally just take Rashford out, and Ake's like 2 feet from the ball, and Bruno's like 15 yards from the ball, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, totally wasn't interfering with the play at all." Yeah,
look, we're coming for you. Your turn is coming because you've got a background of Mikhailo Mudryk. Arsenal super fan number 1 is his Twitter handle. So just
and I'm going to love it when he bags a couple goals against you guys.
In what, 2027, 2032?
Hey, as long as it comes back. Hey, as long as it comes back and he does it, I'm okay with it.
I'm curious, do you think that they missed a trick not having him hold up today's newspaper at his signing video, just so that to give the full hostage vibe that he had in every picture? This guy was the most active social media person until he signed for Chelsea, and now it's crickets. Absolute crickets.
There was a picture of him, I'm pretty sure, in the Arsenal shirt, the day before he signed for.
There was.
Yeah, on his Instagram. And
Yeah,
a few
there
days
was.
before that, it was the picture of Arteta calling him a top 2 coach in the world.
Don't worry, he can be taken under Aubameyang's wing. And I'm sure that'll all work out.
Oh my God, get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out.
When they have the fire sale this summer, it's gonna be interesting
Selling everyone.
for
I'm
sure.
excited.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
starting
know
to wonder if we didn't just pull like a poker move where like Edu and Mikel were like, go to 90 million, see if Boley will go to 100. I bet he'd go to 110, just like seeing how far they could get Boley to push the boat out. And oh, by the way, it's all the limited partners in his private equity firm that are footing the bill. So I'm sure they're going to love it.
Oh, we talked about it in the pod, I think last week, or just in the Mecca, like with Fabrizio and like some of his tweets. I definitely think he's probably increasing the dollar amount by just tweeting, oh, they're interested in 90 mil. Chelsea's like, oh, 90 mil, let's buy them for 100.
Yeah.
But hey, buy them all. That's where I'm at right now. Buy everyone.
If you buy
'em
every
all.
single player, eventually you will win.
Hey, we'll win it eventually if we just buy everyone. I mean, after Barcelona and City, what they've done with the caps and the rules, I mean, there's no limits anymore. I'm business. What is that? I'll just spend everything. Come on.
I'm just warning you, you're 5 seasons away from there being cars behind the goals again. Just as a heads up. Yeah.
Well, I know we started touching on it a little bit. The Manchester derby. We can
sorry.
hit that first. All good. Manchester United with the win, helping out Arsenal, grabbing 3 points over City 2-1. I'll let the United boys take from here, though. What do you guys think?
Hen?
Yeah, I'll go. I was stoked. I mean, obviously the controversy with the goal that's going to be there. And just like what Dobe said, if that's going in against United, I'm losing my marbles. I'm writing a handwritten letter to the FA. Like I'm not even like tweeting. I might book a flight. I don't know. But the fact that it went in was awesome. And then Rashford scoring right after that was so big. We've said it all season in Ten Hag we trust. There were some really big calls that he made. Luke Shaw as a center back, and then sticking Fred in there as well. And it just paid dividends. I mean, I feel like we're seeing Ten Hag's system really come into play. And obviously what a different game than it was, however many months ago when we got stomped 6-3. So you saw the adjustments that were made. I know that we talked a bunch of shit on it in the group text, but Haaland was on the field, believe it or not. He was actually playing the game. It was shocking to see how little he was involved and to see that Pep changed his style altogether of having Haaland drop in deep to receive the pass instead of like getting in on the end of through balls. It was just really different, which to me shows a sign of respect to Ten Hag, a sign of respect to United, but thrilled about the victory.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of everything Hen had to say. Obviously, those that listened last week, I wasn't exactly as optimistic. I mean, I feel like I was the most optimistic that I've been in quite some time as a United fan. We didn't really know how Ten Hag was going to set up going into the game. And when I woke up at 5:30 to check the lineups, and seeing Luke Shaw at center back was surprising. But like, I think there's also an argument that our best center back pairing for the last few weeks has honestly been Varane and Luke Shaw. And I think it shows Ten Hag, he likes to sort of stick to his principles to where he likes that right-footed, center back on the right side and that left-footed center back on the left side. And he's not going to go away from his principles. And, the way Ten Hag set up, my man of the match had to be him. You could tell from the first minute of the game, I wasn't sure if we were going to press high and try to, push the game to him. We set back. We're extremely organized. Casemiro kept Fred in front of him, kept Eriksen moving, cut off the lines, and really made City one-dimensional a little bit, to where I think that's kind of the problem that we've seen with Haaland, is City almost relies on him too much at times, to where you see them try to force the balls in behind. If you can take Haaland out of that game, it really disrupts their flow. If you look at sort of the City, strikers from the past, it's an Aguero, it's a Gabriel Jesus. It's these guys that can almost interchange with a Kevin De Bruyne or interchange with a winger. And Haaland playing through the middle makes them very one-dimensional. It wasn't by any means the best performance by United, but I think the progress it shows is the resiliency. A year ago today, we lose that game 3 or 4-0. Everybody's heads go down. And I think it speaks to Casemiro. To me, he's our most important player just because of what he brings into the locker room and the mentality that he's changed. Syria winner, 5-time Champions League winner. And you can see by the way he's playing with United that he's a rejuvenated player that still wants to win, that wants to come and improve himself. And I said it last week. If he's the best player on the field, we're going to win the game. In my opinion, he was probably our best player on the field. So obviously extremely happy. I'm not going to get into we're title contenders just yet. It's a massive win in our progress. But it's one game at a time from here on out. It's a massive win, but one game at a time.
I also think his decision just to not play Harry Maguire was a pretty easy one. So
we had $200 million worth of center backs on the bench.
Yeah.
Like we had Maguire, Lindelof, and Martinez all on the bench, and he went with Luke Shaw, which I think just speaks to Ten Hag and how he approaches the game as a manager.
I think Elliot mentioned it before. I think that referee and that call had a lot to do with it. It's a huge momentum swing. But I also don't want to take credit completely away from you guys. And I was thoroughly impressed. I said it before we even started this pod. Casemiro, I kind of watched closely this couple last games because I always thought he was overrated at Real Madrid. But I will say, it definitely has impressed me and kind of changed the style of play that you guys have.
Yeah, it's just the mentality thing. You know, I think respectively for each one of our teams, Chelsea and Tottenham with the exclusion, you can see at least one player in the team that really sets that tone. And Casemiro is that. Like, I mean, I think, you know, Dobes has really talked highly of like Bruno Fernandes, for example, over the last several years. He's put up a lot of great numbers. Technically, this year, his numbers have dropped. But how important he is to the team in terms of pressing and getting in the right positions.
Work rate.
I think Casemiro unlocks it. I think that Casemiro gives him the confidence to, you know, to stick in the middle of the park and really let Bruno roam. You know, this performance reminded me of Portugal's performance in the World Cup, where he started out on the right wing, Bruno Fernandes, and as soon as he dropped into the 10 role, things completely changed.
Game changed.
Happened the same thing this weekend. So yeah, big shouts to Casemiro, big shouts to Bruno, and I'll ride this Rashford train till I die. So I'm stoked.
I also thought it was pretty cool. The whole I saw it on TikTok. Of course, it's my only source of news nowadays. Was when Bruno was walking off and he like pushed Rashford out in front and was telling everyone to cheer for him. I thought that was pretty cool and like definitely something you want to see from the captain.
Scored in every game since the World Cup.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what you want out of your captain, just like you said, Nikki. And like you know, take it back to a year ago. You know, United fans had to hide Rashford. They had to make sure that, like, you know, fans were like, you know, being okay with him. And now we're pushing out in front of the fans and telling them to hype him up and all that. It's cool to see. It's really cool to see.
Makes me want to throw up.
I don't blame you being all the way down there.
Oh,
Elliot, I know you watched the game too. What do you think? What do you think about United's performance? Obviously, you touched on you know, the goal and everything. What also do you think City needs to do, kind of being in the position they're in? And
yeah, I mean,
performance lately.
Look, I'll admit that Casemiro has settled in the Premier League now and is making a big difference for United. I always rated Rashford. The thing I'll say is it's very, very rare that there's a player on arrival that's easy to root for. Rashford's so easy to root for because he's such a good person, you know, and his commitment to his community is really important. And, you know, his voice as a public figure is one that I really respect. So I think he's a guy that's easy to root for. I won't be rooting for him at the weekend, obviously, but that's beside the point. Goals change games. I know it's such a cliche, but like, I think Manchester City are a team that, even though I don't think they're necessarily playing at their best right now, we know that they can strangle the life out of a game once they have the lead. And so that goal coming the way it did, when it shouldn't have been allowed, I think obviously that totally changes what Manchester City would have wanted to do the rest of that game. But look, this is the galaxy brain take. I get it. The guy who can't stop scoring goals and is a robot, you know, built specifically to score goals, has changed the way City play football. And they are still adapting to that. And I think Pep Guardiola, this is going to sound absurd, I think he would gladly trade the Premier League for the Champions League at this point. Gladly. And I think 100%. Manchester City are being built right now to be ready to go win the Champions League. And I honestly think Pep's attitude is, we're so good that if I fall 5 points behind, 7 points behind, 8 points behind, I still got Arsenal twice. I like my chances to come win the Premier League. But even if I don't, what I'm trying to do is get myself positioned to go win Champions League games and win the Champions League. And that's Arsenal's benefit, right? Because I think that he takes the Premier League for granted at his peril, but it gives us a window. And that's, I'm not taking anything away from what United did, but I mean, it was the same in the Chelsea game. If Kepa has arms, that's a draw. Now, look, I think picking a goalkeeper who doesn't have arms has to at some point be on Graham Potter, but he did, and that cost them, right? I had said on our podcast that I think that's actually, Chelsea might need some revenue to pay for all the players they're buying. Maybe you sell that seat in front of the goal, and instead of giving it to Kepa, you give it to a fan, because you could probably bring in a lot of money for that seat.
Then you lost me. You were going down a good one, and then you lost.
I know.
Man, I was like, I'll get rid of him. I'm down. I'm all
in one way, then the nodding the other way. But so with all kidding aside, I think Manchester City right now are a work in progress with the idea towards being at their best for April and May, when they can win the Champions League. And if that means they fall too far behind in the Premier League, I honestly think Pep will take it. And it's the impact of bringing in the kind of center forward that changes your whole system. And you're seeing it.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. And I mentioned it on our last pod. I had a conversation with one of my bosses at work who's a huge City fan. And his mindset is if they don't win the Champions League, they should sack him. And he's obviously a ruthless City fan who claims he's been one for a very long time, but I don't know how much I believe that. But yeah, they are completely riding on them winning the Champions League this year. And I think you are 100% correct that the Premier League's kind of falling off and they're not taking it as serious.
Yeah. Look, I'm just like your boss. Like, I've been a huge Rams fan, but this year I found like I'm kind of a big Eagles fan and Niners fan. So similar to your boss, kind of just supporting the teams I love and have always loved. Yeah,
of course.
So Butch is a high school varsity coach here in St. Louis. One of the most analytical soccer brains that we know. So Butch, with that being said, would love to get your take on this game from an analytics perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, what kind of blew my mind, I agree with Elliot. I think that it wasn't the Manchester City that we're like known to seeing. And what really struck me was I thought Pep got the substitutions wrong. If I look at that bench and I see a player like Ilkay Gundogan, I think he changes the game because he's so precise. He can press, he can run. His range of pass is phenomenal. I think he would have came in and changed the entire facet of the game. 60th minute or whatever, Pep decided to bring him on. I don't think he brought on the right players. I thought Grealish slowed the game down, even though he drew a few fouls. He did what Jack Grealish does. He's a great player, but he slows the game down. And Elliot was talking about how this isn't with Haaland right now. It's not the way that we've seen City play for years. I think you see that with Jack Grealish too. Why not go to the guys who help you play the way that win you games? Ilkay Gundogan. I mean, for me, he's a world-class player. I also, from the analytics standpoint, like previewing how they're going to play Arsenal, what makes me nervous for Manchester United is the wingers on Manchester City. They don't have a ton of pace, right? They didn't really hurt you in behind. Mahrez doesn't go in behind. He wants the ball at his feet.
Still in Malasia's pocket, bro.
He is, right? Foden wants the ball at his feet, right? Phil Foden's very much a give me the ball at my feet. I'm gonna run at you. I'm not gonna run you behind. So what makes me nervous for United is I look at Arsenal. Gabriel Martinelli has got wheels. He's gonna dart. He's gonna make those runs. And Wan-Bissaka, he's known for his defending, but I don't think he's gonna keep up with Martinelli pace for a full 90 minutes. I think Bukayo Saka is arguably, in my opinion, he's a top 5 player in the Premier League right now. And I think the best player in the Premier League right now is Odegaard. So how do you kind of, get your game plan ready if you're Ten Hag to deal with actual runners that will go in behind from the wide areas? It's going to be interesting, and that makes me nervous for United.
I'll tell you, I think where United are going to really find a problem with Arsenal, and you named all the players that are the sort of tip of the spear, but they're going to struggle with Zinchenko. The role this guy is playing, and you saw it in the derby, he makes that fourth in midfield, and it just winds up being a numerical advantage. And he and Partey are exchanging passes in small spaces, and he's flipping sides with him. It's not just inverting. He's going to right central midfield. He's going to left 8. He's going out wide. He's finding the space to be available. And Casemiro is going to have a real challenge on his hands because there's Xhaka sitting in the half space and there's Odegaard sitting in the half space. And who am I going to? And whoever you go to, Zinchenko's just going to go into that space that you vacate and he's going to kill you there. And that's where I think it could get to be a real problem. And oh, by the way, if you do step to him, he can play the ball in behind to Martinelli. Martinelli's been off his game, but I really agree with you, Butch. Like I think he's going to I think he's going to be a big factor in this game. And he has no doubt a chip on his shoulder for the goal that was taken away from him in the away in the reverse fixture. So yeah, I'm a big Zinchenko truther right now. I think he's been one of the transformative players for us because Kieran Tierney's a player a lot of people like. Very British fullback, right? Very traditional, run the wing, touchline to touchline, right? That's where he's going to go, win sprints all day long, crosses into the box. Zinchenko's a different kind of thing. He's the Cancelo for Arsenal, but I think maybe, just maybe, I know the sacrilege to say it, he might be at a better level right at the moment than even Cancelo is.
I think that the role that Zinchenko plays for you all is just, and I think it definitely helps having Arteta come from City, knows exactly how Zinchenko plays. Pep sort of taught him into that role that he's playing for you guys. But the role he has in just overloading the midfield and allowing sort of you guys to slide into that back three where Ben White is just like comfortable on that right side. It's kind of that right-sided center back. Like, in 30 million for Zinchenko is another one that's just like how important he is to Arsenal right now. And the fact that he's 30 million kind of just blows my mind on how much, because you're so right that like Tierney coming into that game or having to start or Zinchenko getting hurt almost completely has to change the way that Arteta has to play with that back four a little bit, in my opinion.
Very true.
And we saw Zinchenko doing a lot of what Elliot just talked about against Tottenham Hotspur a few days ago. You know, he was coming in, he was in so many different positions. Henry and I were talking about this months ago. Zinchenko's first or second game with Arsenal back in August, we looked at the screen and we looked at each other. We're like, look at where Zinchenko is right now. Because I didn't envision him doing that with a different manager that wasn't Pep Guardiola. Because Pep's known for it. I didn't know Mikel Arteta was known for that too, right? Even though he was his understudy. I was watching him like, gosh, this guy's like incredible. Like, he doesn't get caught out.
People forget Zinchenko was also a center mid. He came into that City side.
For Ukraine, he is.
Yes, he plays center mid. He's very comfortable on the ball, and it fit Pep's style so well at City. So he was just like, oh, play on my left back. And then it just kind of took and grew from there, and Arsenal saw that. And I think it was, like they said, a great signing. Yeah,
and I think United have one disadvantage going into this game. And I think Ten Hag is a better coach than Conte, and I think United are a better team than Spurs. Sorry, we're just beating up on Spurs today.
He hasn't even got a word in yet.
Who will join you in on
you drinking?
Just, have a stiff drink. It's the best you can do right now. But but I think the fact that Arsenal have just come off playing a counter-attacking team and, facing a team that wants to try to hurt you in a similar way, I think we'll be sort of well prepared for that challenge. Right. Because I think, to be fair to United in the away leg, it's not a leg, but in the reverse fixture, I think we were a little naive about the counterattacks. I think we've gotten better about that. And I think we've just played one of the teams in the league, if I'm going to pay Spurs a compliment, that can really, really hurt you counterattacking. So I think we kind of got a good warm up, so to speak. Not that the North London Derby is a warm up, but a warm up for the challenge that United pose in terms of the counterattacking.
But wouldn't you say the exact same thing, like on the opposite of like if there was a team to play before Arsenal at City that plays like a possession base, inverted fullbacks, like guys popping up all over the place. The differences when you look at them right now is that like Eddie isn't that like striker that Holland is, but when you look at like most places around the field, with the exception of what Butch mentioned of those like wingers that are going to get in behind, City plays so similar than Arsenal. So it's like almost like you look at your derby that you just played, and it's the same thing for us, where I would say going into this, like we're pretty prepared for what Arsenal is. The only problem is that we have Crystal Palace in the middle of the week, and that can present all sorts of issues. So we'll see.
I think that is obviously a big advantage that we don't have that. You're spot on that it's good preparation style wise. A couple of things. Firstly, you're going to have to survive the first 20 minutes. Arsenal have blitzed opposition out of the gate. And if you concede first, you are not going to win. That is not a thing that's going to happen against this Arsenal team. So the real key for United is going to be survive the siege, and it's coming. It's going to be a siege in the first 20 minutes. And something you may not be used to, the Emirates isn't the Emirates you've been thinking of. It is Fortress Emirates right now. Yep. The club has done a really nice job connecting with the fans, bringing fan groups in. There's a group called the Ashburton Army. I'm not going to go so far as talking to ultras and all that nonsense, but like they really get the noise up. They really sing. When Arsenal go behind, like we did against West Ham, the cheering is louder than when we're ahead. So I think United are going to have to survive the early siege, cannot afford to fall behind, because if you're playing from behind and have to bring the game to Arsenal, then I think it gets really dicey.
Yeah, I mean, if you get completely unlucky and your goalie just absolutely has a shocker like Hugo Lloris did to start the game.
Sometimes you just shove the ball in your own net. It's just a thing that goalies do. I don't know if you've ever watched
I don't want to keep dogging him, but I hate to say it as well. Like, I think you should have saved Odegaard's goal as well. Like, that's just my opinion. Like, I think Mendy saves that in my
I don't know. I think
my message to the Discord that I'm in was like, they showed Arsenal and Spurs in the tunnel, and I was like, Lloris looks haunted. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but that game.
It was over in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Before the game. And I think that's a great segue. And we've touched on the game a little bit, but segueing into talking about the North London derby, youngest manager in the Prem, youngest team in the Prem, 8 points clear of City, 2 wins over Tottenham this season, dropping only, 3 points this season so far total. Playing beautiful football. Put some respect on our name, the Arsenal. 2-1 over Tottenham.
We've dropped points in 3 games, not just the 3 points. I'll keep it honest.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's still pretty damn good. Yeah.
I do love that, like, now that Elliot's on this podcast, Winks is like the most confident he's ever been on this podcast. Like, literally every week we're checking in. Winks is like, I'm just happy to be here, and you never know what's gonna happen. And
we talk about this in the group chat a lot, because there's another Arsenal fan in the Mecca of Banter, JP, who is the most confident Arsenal fan that I know. Before the season started, he's like, Arsenal's winning the Premier League this year. Like,
he said that for the last 7 years straight.
Exactly.
Confident and delusional.
It's like the guy who tweets a prediction every single day and deletes the ones that are wrong, and then when one's right, he's like, ask me for the lottery numbers, bro. It's like,
you sound a lot like LeBron James, bro.
and he could be that guy, but the guys in this group are really good at keeping receipts on that kind of stuff. So you got to be careful with what you say. It will come back and bite you. But no, it's always going to make someone more confident having someone on your side for one of these things. And again, the team performance only backs that up. But 2-1, we did come out blitzing Tottenham in the first half, and we kind of expected that, because we know that Tottenham is historically a second half team, whereas we're the exact opposite. The best of both worlds there, visiting Tottenham away. Great result all the way around. I don't know, what was your thoughts? I know we were at Amsterdam Tavern here in St. Louis watching the game, and
yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit all the same, right? Like, Spurs also lost to Villa 2-0. So there's a lot of things that can be taken from it, and I do think it's a tale of two halves. If Hugo literally doesn't shove the ball in his own net, it's a whole different game. It was in the 12th or 16th minute. I think it's hard to deny that going down that quickly on a completely self-induced error, which is the exact same thing that happened in the reverse fixture at the Emirates. So we got robbed a little bit of a game that was going to be neck and neck, and I think the second half showed that. Ramsdale was on his head. Ramsdale had 7 saves, and 4 of those were insane saves.
That kick save was unreal.
A kick save on Sessegnon was slick.
Unbelievable.
His post-shot expected goals saved was over 2. I think it was 2.2 post-shot expected goals saved.
Unbelievable.
So I think you shout that out. That's impressive. And Spurs, there's probably 18 other teams that one of those goals goes in, and then one of those goals goes in. We're talking about the second half Spurs that we've seen every time. But the wild thing to me is that Conte just continues to set the team up for that exact same scenario. Like, the team can attack. The team is an attacking threat. I think 10 goal differential at this point. I think we were 12, but like, the team can score goals. They just get so lazy and lackluster in the first 20 to 30 minutes. Watch the game go by, go into half, and then Conte has, the team talk of all team talks. Comes out, beats Leeds 3-2, beats Bournemouth down 2. Like, that's not something that you want to have to do every game. So I don't think it's fair to say that Arsenal completely dominated and bossed it. I think Spurs had their moments, and I think if one of those goals goes in, we talk about a whole different match. But I mean, truthfully saw this coming. I don't think anyone is really all that shocked. We lost. I said last week, this isn't a season destroyer. Twitter would tell you that it is. Twitter Spurs outlets are like, already linking us to Tuchel. I want to vomit. They play the same. It all sucks. If you just stick with one fucking manager, back him for more than 6 months, like Arteta's had 5 years. If he finished eighth, not 5 years. If he finished eighth at any point after the amount of time that he'd had at Arsenal, Spurs would have fired him a long time ago. So you're seeing another team reap the rewards of actually giving a guy some confidence. Spurs have not ever had that. Even Pochettino didn't have that. He made the 2019 Champions League run on sticks and stones, and then played a half-fit Harry Kane over Lucas Moura to watch, a really shitty Champions League final against Liverpool. But
scariest night of my life, for the record.
Yeah, and
literal scariest night of my life.
Musa Sissoko doesn't get called for a red card when the ball hits his armpit, or not a red card, a penalty. Again, completely different game. But we're talking about the same old Spurs that self-inflict themselves in the first 10 minutes, and that shit runs deep.
The only thing I'll push back on slightly, because I don't think your read of the game is wrong per se, but I think that like there's a score effects component to this too, right? Which is Arsenal dominated the first half. I rewatched it today. So on our Patreon, we do like these rewatch videos, and we put the game up and we analyze it. We stop, we pause, we go through it. And like Eddie Nketiah has a clear chance, 6 yards out. And I don't have to walk through them. You know what the chances were, but
party shot was nuts.
Oh man. If that goes in the back of the net, it goes through the stadium and back all the way to
nuts.
Highbury. Yeah. I mean, but my point is that like, I do think Arsenal were in that weird spot in the second half of what we have, we hold. And there was a little bit of that sit in our mid block, keep Spurs out, knowing that what Spurs are not good at is breaking down a low block or a mid block, right? Spurs are the counterattack team. And so I think we did get caught in a little of that. And this is where the thinness of the Arsenal squad does come to bear, because if we bring in a stud forward off the bench on 70 minutes, I think, yeah. So a super stud, like €100 million player who like has 30 senior minutes or 30 senior starts in the Ukraine league, because that's what you want to pay.
7 goals, 7 assists, baby.
Yeah. Cool. No, but you know what I mean. Like I think score effects can really change this, and that's not to say Ramsdale wasn't off his head. He really was, but I can point to a lot of moments in the first half where we could have made it 3, we could have made it 4. So like it cuts both ways. I think the thing for Spurs is they want the opposition to take the game to them. That's how Spurs set up, because they know that their talent and their quality is in the opposition final third. They don't have the ability to play their way there. We watched it again. The number of times Spurs just hoofed it from the back, couldn't keep the ball, and it's coming right back at you. And this is a squad building choice, because when you look at those players, I mean, I don't know how Eric Dyer is still starting for Spurs at this point. And so
he's still fighting fans.
He should be. They should be fighting.
The fans are doing the fighting.
The fans,
him
the fans. I mean, I said it earlier. That
there?
guy. Did you guys hear the penalty that guy who kicked Ramsdale got?
No, what did he get?
Oh my, a lifetime season ticket to Tottenham.
Yeah.
So yeah, really bad for him. Unfortunately, he's got to watch them for the rest of his life. But no, all kidding aside, like, and then I'll shut up. But this is a game where if it's even at halftime, we don't necessarily know that the second half plays out the same way, right? I mean, Arsenal went to the Amex to play Brighton, where no one's been very good, and we had a 4-1 lead on Brighton. And then we crapped the bet a little bit, and like we let them back in the game a bit, but it's because we had a 4-1 lead, right? So I think score effects play into how that shook out in the second half.
One thing I wanted to touch on too, Hoove, and we talked about it at Amsterdam, was the whole lineup situation. We knew that Richarlison wasn't fully healthy, but waiting for the lineups to come out and not seeing Perisic out there, I think that we were all kind of confused, because as far as reports went, there was nothing on him being injured or doubtful or anything like that. And I think that Sessegnon Saka matchup is an Arsenal fan's dream over Perisic here. And then even so, waiting so long to bring Perisic on was weird to see, and obviously not what I would have wanted if I was a Tottenham fan.
It's just on brand. Conte doesn't make subs. Conte trusts the team that he sets out, and sometimes that works. Sometimes it just takes a goal. So the substitution decision late, I don't know if it really surprised me as much as it was just reaffirming the fact that sucks and he does that and that's who he is. Leaving him out was insane. Like, I'm trying to find any sort of defensive comment about playing Ryan Sessegnon, but I've gone back and watched some clips too. That guy couldn't connect a pass on the other side of the field. Like, he had multiple opportunities where Harry Kane does his signature drop back, fine, deep ball runner. The way that they do counterattack is beautiful. But then you get it to a winger who can't find a guy in the middle. So he consistently did that. It was over and over. I watched it so many times. And then he doesn't come on. I think Kulusevski was half fit. Henry even commented in the 60th, like, the kid had no legs. But he was definitely still one of the most creative players on Tottenham. Like, that's not saying much considering, there wasn't a lot from the wing play. But he's just still that guy. He's going to cut in. He's going to hit it on his left foot. And he was close twice. I looked at Hen at one point and was just like, a Kulusevski that's played for the last 5 weeks probably scores one of those. There was definitely a lack of legs in him. But, Richarlison, he's just not playing the position that he needs to be playing, but you're not going to play him in the 9, when you have Harry Kane. But when do you decide that, he needs to be on the field with, Sonny and Kulusevski? And we saw it in the last 20 minutes. They were kind of dangerous. But
it'll be when they sell Kane in the summer.
Yeah, it's going to be when they sell Kane in the summer. You know what? And the more that we sit here and talk about it, the more I am gradually accepting it. And whatever, it's easier to accept now than to deny it the entire time.
No. But what's your take on the Richarlison antics, though? Because the guy is a nut job. Like, he was so wound up. He was so wound up, and like, I don't see how that helped. I feel like his antics like took some of the impetus away from Spurs at a time when at least there was some momentum there.
And with that being said, it's a fine line at that too, right? Because there's, in certain players, you love to see a level of passion. And I think we see it with Xhaka sometimes, getting pissed off and wanting to be a leader in that sense. But I agree. I feel like at some point you step over that line.
But that's a great analogy, right? Because Xhaka used to be a liability because of it, because he couldn't find the balance. And this season he has found the balance.
Controlled it.
You see the difference. And Richarlison was just off his nut the whole time.
Not control it, just had Arteta run 50 yards to make sure that he did.
That was the funniest video
I was dying. He saw him in the corner of his eye and took off. I was like, that man hasn't ran that fast in a long time.
So everyone knows what you get with Richarlison. To a certain degree, you're getting this guy who's just a fireball of energy. He's always made some of those questionable on-field antic type decisions. My take partially, you can always cross a line. I don't know if he ever did anything that was just, so blatantly stupid. He wasn't juggling the ball on a free kick. He gets slide tackled by, you know what I mean? Like that, indefensible. He deserves to take that shot. Totally different scenario. But there was a lack of that energy. There was a lack of that passion. Nobody on the field was showing it. They were dejected after the 10th minute. So I think some degree, a guy can see that from the sideline. That'll fire you up. And he's going to be that guy regardless of who they play, where they play, when it is. And if they're down 2-0, he's going to try and start to do some shit. But you're right, 100%. And there is a level of respect that we have in football. And we all are also talking about the two teams that actually have the least amount of respect for each other. So to a certain degree, there's that. There's a passion thing. You can always go too far, and sometimes it does pull away. But Spurs fan, I was just kind of like, fuck with them. Who cares? We're down 2-0.
But I don't think it helped you on the pitch. Like I get it, right? Like you want your players to be spiky in the derby, but I think there is a line where it helps and where it hurts. And
yeah,
do you have any? And did you have any insight into why he doesn't play Jed Spence at all? Like where he is right now? Like
that's the question of the podcast,
Spence,
man.
Spence killed us in the FA Cup last season. Killed us, and he is Conte just he won't play the kids? Is that the deal? Like, what's
partially? Yes. I think at the end of the day, everything's speculation. Like there's been speculation that he's going to go on loan. And I'm like, great, get this kid somewhere where he's going to get on the field. But in my mind, he fits in a Conte system really well. He is the high-flying wing-back type you want running at people, getting up the field. I think he matches with an Ivan Perisic type perfectly. So the fact that he hasn't even gotten a remotely close run, he's played 10 minutes at Nottingham Forest as some petty minutes when we were up 2-0 or something. So it's been insane to watch. We're playing Matt Doherty
I don't get it, because you want to attack the space behind Zinchenko. That's where the space is going to be. You don't want to attack Ben White's side.
No, you don't. And to force it through not your best left wing back, which is an asinine decision in general, and then to let Matt Doherty, who doesn't do the Conte thing, he's not that. He played in a similar-ish style to Nuno at Wolves, where he was electric. But I think that was because there wasn't really any pressure on him to do anything. He was just, you've got a little bit more free roll on the right. He's being demanded to get up and back, and he's not playing that position the way that a Jed Spence, who wants to be on the ball, who wants to make the passes, who wants to make the runs. And it like physically hurts me to watch this guy and Emerson Royale.
It makes me really happy to hear, by the way. Just really just fills me with joy. Just like
I thought Doherty was a great call over Emerson Royale, and Emerson Royale's played the other 60% of minutes. So
yeah,
dude,
you guys are down bad. You're down bad. And it's beautiful.
And it's better than Chelsea. That's the wildest part about all of it. So
yeah, I mean that's a dead club. Like just dead. I don't know if they're gonna fold.
Injured, 3 points off of fifth, or 5 points off of fifth. Everyone calm down.
5 points off of fifth.
I know.
And can you try to find a way to say that where it doesn't sound the most pathetic I've ever heard in my life?
There's a short period of time where we thought they were going to get liquidated with the Abramovich stuff, and I was kind of like,
don't even get me started on that BS. We should have never had he should have never had to sell the club. We should have never had it. We could go on and on about that.
Oh my God! Now we're going to go Roman apologist.
But
Here we go. Let's do this.
I did want to say one thing that Hoove brought up about the game that I noticed in that derby was Ramsdale. I think especially, I mean, you mentioned it before with Kepa, having to watch him become a rag doll anytime the ball is crossed into our box, and seeing a goalkeeper like Ramsdale completely command all crosses and come out and collect most of them that were coming in I was like, wow, that completely changes the way you play football just by having a goalkeeper that's dominant.
You're dead right. And I want to say 2 things about that just really quick. One is I sometimes hear goalkeepers making saves be brought up as like a criticism of the team, the way they play. Oh, well, how you couldn't have played very well. Your keeper had to make saves. Like that's what they're there to do.
That's
but to give credit to Spurs are a moments team. They can't play any football, but they can win on the moments because you know what? I'll give credit where it's due. Kulusevski, Son, Kane, and Son's kind of past it, let's be honest. But on their day, in their moment, like they're going to kill you if you give them half a chance. That's all they need, half a chance. And so with Spurs and City, have seen this. Spurs are like City's bogey team. Why? Because they play great football? No, because you give them just a half chance and they'll take it. And so to Spurs credit, if you can't play great football, you might as well get the ball at the feet of great forwards. And that's the plan. And it does work for them because you give these guys 5-6 shots a game, they're going to score more than the average team. And so I think Ramsdale being as good as he wasn't a reflection of Spurs battering Arsenal or anything. It's a reflection of managing the moments. 3 key saves. And the one that to me means the most of all is the save on Son. Because Arsenal have just gone up 1-0. It's 3 minutes later. Consolidate, get a lead, let that dominant football play out and really start to take the air out of that big new Spurs toilet bowl that they built. And that save is what allows that to happen. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think Ramsdale's been fantastic. And I don't think that's a knock on Arsenal's football. I think with Spurs, you have to manage the moments.
And I think the antics at the end of the game prove as well. I mean, Spurs fans were heated.
Bro, no one's defending a kid coming out of the fucking stands to kick a player. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I really wanted to do that. Like, great decision. Good for him. I did hear, though, that 670 people came forward and said that they were the guy that kicked Ramsdale in order to get that season ban. So,
yeah, there you go. Ban me. No, ban me. Yeah. And by the way, like that, I'll give Spurs credit. The club came out with a classy statement about, criticizing the fan who did it, criticizing the behavior. Like, at the end of the day, and I think this is where, like, all of us being Americans, a little different from some of the culture over there, there's a line you draw with tribalism where it's cool, it's good, it's fun, it's the Mecca of Banter, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a line you cross, and it stops being okay. And like, whether that's certain anti-Semitic chants that Arsenal have been guilty of and absolutely under no circumstances should be happening, right? Or it's, the physical attack on Ramsdale by a fan. Like, we draw a line in the sand and we get behind that and we agree on it. So I think we have to have those standards, and I'm glad to see the club did as well.
Yeah. Completely agree.
I know we touched on the United Arsenal game coming this Sunday. But I think we can talk about that just a little bit more. I know Dobes had some talking points he wanted to speak to, so I'll hand it over to you, brother.
Yeah, well, Elliot, so this is more of just like a question for you, not necessarily like referring to next weekend specifically, but I think outside of the fans, like our buddy JP, who was like title contenders from day one, like I think most Arsenal fans, and I think United's sort of the same way, were preseason, if you would say, like, you're going to finish third or fourth, like I think most Arsenal and United fans would probably say, like, sign me up, I'll take that tomorrow. I think now getting to the halfway point of the season, you guys are 8 points clear. I think we're almost halfway. But there's like 60 points left. You guys are 8 points clear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is your thought in terms of like an Arsenal fan? Is it eight points clear now? Is it title or bust? Is it, because there's so many points where I think the World Cup taking that month and a half, as Prem fans, we're so accustomed to right now being like, you can kind of get with, the table's kind of set. There's some sort of a favorite, but there's so many points that are left on the table. So I'm curious to, like, as an Arsenal diehard, like, what are your expectations for the second half of the season? Also, I'm assuming that means probably bringing in another piece, but what are your expectations,
Yeah. All right. So a few things. So firstly, it is title or bust, of course, but then you reassess at the end of the season. If Arsenal finish second, 6 points behind City, and we finish on 88 points, you'll be able to have the perspective to say, wow, what a season we had. We beat Liverpool. We won at Stamford Bridge. We did the double over Spurs. We had St. Tottenham's Day. We'll be able to list off all the things that make it a special season. Yeah, I'm chirping. But like right now, when you're 8 points clear, halfway through the season, you got to go win the title. Now, we haven't played City yet. And it's ironic the way things happen, because the City game got moved. And had it not gotten moved, we would have played City. I think it was the away game. Let's say we lose it. City have 3 more points. We have 3 less points. That gap's a little narrower. Maybe we lose a little confidence in that moment. It's ironic how it all happens, because we look great right now. We haven't played City yet. Yeah. If they win both games, that's 6 points right there. Suddenly, it feels a little nervy. The biggest thing with Arsenal is we have a small squad. And last January, I was absolutely fine with us, quote unquote, keeping our powder dry. Totally fine with it. Trust the process, right? Back the manager in the summer, but don't do anything rash, because Arsenal's big problem, ironically, is what Chelsea are doing now. No offense. Well, some offense. Just desperately spending to get back into top 4 with no real plan for what comes after that. We bought Pepe, and we brought in Willian, and we re-signed Aubameyang, and we made all kinds of short-term deals with ourselves to try to be back to relevance, and none of that worked. And now we have a real plan, and it's working. What I will say, though, is it's all well and good to have a plan for the long term. The league is there.
Yep.
This is where American sports can be instructive. Even the Rams, right? Von Miller and Odell Beckham and Matthew Stafford, they won a Super Bowl, and flags fly forever. That's what we right. Flags fly forever. Go win the title. Go back this manager. Go do what you need to do. Now, for me, it wasn't $100 million on a kid from the Ukrainian league, because even if I think he's a star, he's not a star this season. I wanted the Felix deal because I thought he could come in and be good right away. And, all right, the red card's hilarious. But before the red card, he looked like the best player on the pitch.
Best looking player.
Yeah. So
100%.
What I would say is the club has to back him now. And maybe it's pull a summer move forward. I know we're linked with Damian Rice. We're linked with Rice, right? Declan Rice. if it's not going to happen now, I don't want to hear about it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the mindset I'm in, because
is that what you guys need though?
Well, I mean,
Rice.
Here's what I'll say. If Thomas Partey's hamstrings go twang, which they've gone a lot in the time he's been at Arsenal, this team looks a lot different.
Or he goes to jail.
Well, but like,
I had to get my dig.
Libel laws and all that. But like, but the moral of the story is they have to back the manager with the resources to go try to make an assault on the title. And I'm fine with throwing Europa, and I'm fine with throwing the FA Cup. In a way, drawing City is the best thing ever. Because if we get knocked out, they're going to have fixtures rearranged and midweek fixtures. But for all we know, they might have a midweek FA Cup quarterfinal before they have to play us. Right. Yep. So I'm fine. And this is rambling a bit, I realize, but I'll finish up by saying this. Something is different. And here's what's different. Every single time Arsenal play right now, we look the same. It's not like, how are we doing this? It's smoke and mirrors. What's going on? It's, it's all going for us. You guys have watched us play. We press, we control, we have the ball, we create chances. The only team that's kept us from scoring the whole season is Newcastle, who have the meanest defense in the whole Premier League. And they needed some help from the referees and some help from bad finishing to get there. I believe that Arsenal will go play good football in every match. And from there, it just comes down to the club have to not let, because last season we would have had top 4 if we didn't go into the run-in without Partey, without White, without Gabriel, without, you could, hell, we were trying to get through with Lacazette, for God's sakes. The guy was dragging a refrigerator behind him for half a season. So like, don't let that happen. Don't let this season fall apart because you didn't go do the one bit of business that could have protected a title challenge. The last time we won was 2004. It's time to do it again.
I was going to say, don't choke again like the last 7 times.
Well, that's one way to look at it. But no, this team, I'll tell you what, this team won't choke. If you told me right now, everyone that we count on is going to stay fit, I will tell you right now, we'll win the league.
Yep.
But no one can promise you that. And the club have to take the action they have to take.
I'd say the same thing as Chelsea if we were fully fit, but that doesn't always happen in the Premier.
Yeah, I guess with that, Elliot, admittedly, I'm not in like Arsenal spaces. So like, I'm not paying super close attention to like the Kroenke family or like anything like that. I do know the Glazers, and I do know like Daniel Levy and his like refusal to spend money. I know a little bit of like Liverpool's recruitment strategy and how there's like a cap to what they'll spend and what they won't spend. Chelsea doesn't even have a system. They just buy everyone. What is like Arsenal's, I guess like transfer strategy that they're looking at right now? Because we all know the Mudryk thing, we all know the Felix thing, and that fell through. But is there anything that they're like, we want to keep it under this much? Like United this January is like, we're going for loans. That's like clearly known. But like, I don't know anything about Arsenal. Does Arsenal have like that kind of strategy for January?
That's a really good question with no clear answer, because for a long time we were the self-sustaining club, right? We were the club that our net spend was 0. Like that's, Arsene Wenger was famously once asked, what would you do if someone handed you 100 million pounds? He said, I'd hand it back. Right. I mean, there was a pride in that, the pride in the parsimony, and that's changed. One thing that's definitely changed is when Stan got full control of the club and Usmanov was gone, he has shown a willingness to spend both on wages and on transfers. And to be fair to him, he's been screwed. He shouldn't have signed the contract for Aubameyang. He shouldn't have signed the deal for Willian. He shouldn't have approved Pepe. Raul Sanllehi was a snake oil salesman who took the club for a ride. But there's been a willingness to continue to spend. This rebuild is built on spending without sales to pay it back. Yeah. So I don't know what the limit is. I know we were willing to go to 80 million on this Mudryk character, right? With this shit tattoo.
Oh, now he's a character. You loved him a month ago.
I mean,
yeah, for half the price.
To be fair, you will note I was never super in support of this transfer. Just and I have receipts for that. But but I guess what I'll say is I don't know. I wish I had a clearer answer, but it seems the club are willing to spend. And oh, by the way, Ozil's off the books, Kolasinac is off the books, Willian's off the books, Aubameyang's off the books. Yes, they got to get Saka done, and they got to get Saliba done, and they got to get Martinelli done. But like, there's room if they can find the guy. I think the problem is Mikel is very specific about who he wants. But good, right? Because the one thing he's proven is I need the guys who will work exactly the way I need them to work. And I'm okay with that because I trust him now, obviously, because look what he's done. So people are like, oh, let's go get Ferran Torres. Let's go get this. Like,
no,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that. So we'll see. I don't know if the player is out there, unfortunately, but I don't think money is the obstacle. I think the obstacle now is that Felix and Mudryk were the guys.
Yeah.
And Boley fired his money cannons in that direction, and that's all done now.
I wonder if Felix will become available again in the summer. I know that he just extended at Atletico, but I do wonder if he's going to be someone who's on the table.
Well, what complicates that is Simeone's gone at the end of the season.
Correct.
So the new guy coming in, I'm sure, is going to want to at least get a look at Felix. So we'll see.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a tough part too. Like we've talked about João on podcasts before in the transfer market, that he's in such a crappy system that doesn't, fit his style, and would be so cool to see him, permanently in the Premier League. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. I think with that being said, we should get some score predictions for Sunday. So Hen, what do you think?
I'm gonna go a big stunner. I'm gonna go a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
I don't think that I can even make a prediction. And the reason I say that is because Cassie and Fred, one more yellow against Crystal Palace, they miss next Sunday. So without being able to even accurately pick our lineup, it's tough. I think fully healthy, I'm with Hen, I see going to the Emirates with Arsenal in the form they're in is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely tough. It's not going to be like playing at Old Trafford where you get that call, you get the 75,000 fans behind you, you get that pressing. I think Elliot's exactly right when he said it earlier. If we go down 1-0, it could be a long game for us because it's tough for us to get back in that game. At the same time, I sort of trust Ten Hag to set up and come up with a plan on how we're going to play. I think it's very early. My prediction may change. I'm going to go 2-1. But I don't know because the lineups are tough for me.
2-1 who?
Us. What do you mean?
Let's go.
What do you mean? Yeah, that's one thing about these predictions that I've noticed. Nobody's openly predicted a specific score knowing that their team's going to lose. And I'm going to keep that trend going. I think that having home field advantage here is huge for us. And I'm going to flip-flop your score, Connor, and say 2-1 Arsenal. I think before Sunday, I was leaning more towards a tie as well. Just knowing that Sunday was going to be just an absolute dogfight. Roster was going to be something in the back of my brain too, potentially somebody getting hurt during that and that affecting how we play on Sunday. But after seeing how we played on Sunday and, United beating City, they need a good humbling. So I think we'll be happy to give that to them. Elliot, what do you think?
I mean, I'm going to go conservative here. I'll say 4-1 Arsenal. I don't think
man.
I don't even think United are in the game. From minute one, I don't think they're in the game. I think this is an annihilation. I think it is a wipeout. I think it is an absolute coronation for the future champions, Arsenal FC. I think I think there's a chance we leave United the dignity of scoring a goal, right? Because I don't think we're bad people. I don't think we want to hurt feelings, but this is United in the mud. This is Ten Hag in the mud. This is an absolute disaster for United. They're going to get wrecked. I think playing Palace midweek is the worst case scenario.
It really is.
You need to be fresh to play us because we're going to stretch that pitch and push you back. And you're going to counter, and Rashford, it wouldn't even surprise me if Rashford gets the opening goal and then it's 4-0 from there. This Arsenal team, I'm going to tell you guys, because I don't know how closely you're watching. There is something really, really special with this football that is happening. With the way Zinchenko's tucking in all over the place and Partey's playing in little phone booths in midfield, and Saka, you can't take the ball away from him, and Martinelli gives you that burst. And the only thing that could save you is the bad finishing. Because at the end of the day, the thing you have to remember is the youngest team in the league. And they're going to feel the pressure of the title. And if it's a little bit tight early on, Nketiah, he's a kid really still. Right. He's played so few senior minutes. Saka and Martinelli, they're kids. Odegaard he's what De Bruyne, what we think. He's the new De Bruyne, right? He's the heir apparent to that. And I don't think United can live with us. And I think playing midweek is an absolute worst case scenario. 3-4-1. I'll go 4-1. Yeah.
Elliot went over to London and drank some of that Prime and is totally on that Kool-Aid.
I got the blood of Logan Paul.
Wow. Guys, we're 8 points clear top league. We're on a 96-point pace. It's not Kool-Aid.
A lot of games
literally
left.
True.
A lot of games left.
There are a lot of games left. And
one injury completely changes your side.
Yes, but guess what we're not going to do? We're not going to get injured between... we're not going to get injured between now and Sunday.
Correct.
I mean, we might. It's Arsenal.
I was going to say, can you imagine if like 3 players pull up lame in training between now and then?
I will say this too, right? Like when I say it's not a mirage, this is why I like data. I like to look at data. I like to look at the analytics because I want to say, like, are my eyes deceiving me? The goal difference, all that stuff, right? It says we're where we belong. XG says where we belong. XG against says where we belong, right? Shots for, shots against, final third possession, PPDA. You look at a team and say, what are the metrics that tell me who the best team is? Those metrics say it's Arsenal, or some of them might say it's City. I'm very, very comfortable with this game. Very, very comfortable. Unless, because let's be honest, this is always in play. United have that secret weapon. It's the guy who's going to have the earpiece. Anthony Taylor. Guy with the earpiece. I know.
No, Anthony Taylor is only against Chelsea is where he makes
St. Anthony, man. St. Anthony's going to be there for us. Yeah, I feel good about it.
I thought you were talking about Harry Maguire as our secret weapon.
Oh, if you start Harry Maguire, then 4-1 is conservative. If you start,
we're going to 6-0 route.
Double digits.
At the end of every podcast, I say we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10. Spurs 0, Arsenal 10, United 0. If Maguire starts, it's in play.
Yeah.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Elliot, we just want to say thank you so much for hopping on here, man. It's been so nice having another Arsenal guy on here.
I can imagine.
The timing of this is really sus.
You're besieged.
And especially one, as knowledgeable as you and been doing it for so long. We
that an age
appreciate
joke?
you.
Come on, man. We're friends.
You know what I mean? But
yeah.
But we do really appreciate it, and excited to have you back on at some point. Maybe towards the end of the year when we have this trophy.
We'll do a live stream from the open top bus parade. How's that sound?
And count us in, or count me in at least. I'm sure. Who will probably be busy
I want
that
all
day.
of them here for it. I want them all here for it.
You can make
I was
that
almost
happen.
busy today, bro.
All right,
Elliot, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you, Elliot.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
appreciate it, man.
Talk soon.
cheers. All right, everyone. So Elliot had to hop off, but we are back again to talk about the Liverpool-Chelsea game coming up on Saturday, the 21st. One more time, just wanted to thank Elliot from Arsenal Vision so much for hopping on here.
It was amazing.
It's great, and I think we all agree it's awesome to have someone with a football brain like that join us to talk about 2 big games on the Arsenal fixture list, Tottenham and then United this Sunday. So cheers to him.
Yeah, big shouts. Big shout
out.
That was awesome. Appreciate him a lot.
Now we get to let Butchie and Hafey take it away and talk about Liverpool-Chelsea. What's going on, boys?
The mid-table sides. Let's go, boys.
Oh, shut your mouth.
The fight for relegation.
9th and 10th.
Yeah, since we were talking about the derbies, I mean, we still played in a derby this weekend as well. We were in the West London derby. We ended up winning 1-0. Kai Havertz scored, which felt good. I know you guys have been dogging him for a while, but seeing his name on the score sheet, I don't care how he does it or how many chances he didn't score in that game. Him being on the score sheet is a positive for me, and I'm not going to have you guys turn it any other way. The other big positive that I had was I thought our new signing, Benoit, I cannot pronounce his last name, so I don't even want to attempt it. The French guy, I thought he played really well, especially with the ball at his feet. And his ability to break lines and connect passes is something that I think Koulibaly has been struggling to do and has been a big downfall in our defense. So I was very happy with that. But besides that, I think it's been similar. You can tell where our side doesn't have a lot of high energy or positive things going forward, especially in the final third. So we're pretty boring to watch at the moment, but hopefully Mudryk's signing is going to come in and change that. And hopefully some of our injuries are going to get healthy mid-February, and it'll inject some energy into our lineup.
Real quick, Nikki, with Mudryk, is he like going to play on Saturday? Like,
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, you assume after a week of being there and
Yeah.
probably training and whatnot, but
Yes, I definitely think he will be. The only reason I say that was because there was rumors that he might even play in the Crystal Palace game. But like, I would assume that he is for sure going to be on the team sheet. I don't know about starting. I have no idea. And to be fair, like I never do these days with Chelsea and Graham Potter. I feel like he has a new lineup every single week. So Aubameyang might as well start next week. I have no idea. It seems like he's been going Kai.
Give me your spin zone with him. Like I think
with who?
I hope that you can admit that 100 million for another winger is like not smart. Like give me your like spin zone on why it's a halfway decent move. Because that's an insane you wouldn't offer 120 for Enzo, but you offer 120 for him.
Yeah, I think it's wild. I definitely think it's a position we need.
Winger?
I think he'll play more of a striker for us. Instead of Aubameyang. That's what I personally think. 100 I think is a lot, but I also think nowadays it's not as much as we think. I think money has increased and everyone's price tag has increased, but I do agree with you. It's a risk. We're definitely 100% taking a risk. And recently our risks have not been going out. I think Cucurella could go down as one of our worst signings ever.
You have a lot of them.
Yeah.
I just think with Chelsea, it's like, for me, it's kind of like, Ken and I were talking, and it sounds bad, but like, it's kind of where wingers go to die.
Yeah.
Like there's not a winger that's there that's like sort of like a standout. Like there hasn't been like an Eden Hazard type for a while to where it's just Chelsea, a winger. So I think that's why it's such an odd signing to me. It's like, I get that like it's a top 4 boost, but at the same time, it's like when everybody gets back healthy, there has to be a fire sale. And I think the interesting part is, of all the City signings, like if Man City's the standard, not one of them walks into Man City's even reserves. And so I think that's where it's like, the signings are great, but do I think like any of them are like Premier League winners? And I think that's where like the Mudryk one is like, clearly it has to be money motivated by him. But like, I'm just curious,
who else are we going to sign? Who else can we go out
a center midfielder, like a different position. Like that's, if you're going to spend 100 million, you can go get Tielemans for 30. And your midfield,
Scott McTominay is also available if you wanted to.
I think that's the thing with Chelsea is like, we obviously know that there's 60 games left, and you guys too. It's like, you guys will get back healthy. You may be able to string some wins together. Hopefully Potter can figure it out. But so many of these signings, just like, again, like we've said it week after week, it's just like Mudryk doesn't make any sense. It's like fully healthy, you have 8 wingers and no proper 9. I mean, you have Aubameyang, but like, obviously you don't think he's the guy of the future. So that's where it's just like, if Bowley's going to spend, I'm confused on why he didn't spend as like a center midfielder or something that you guys need.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I 100% back every single decision that my club will ever make moving forward in the transfer side, because I have no input into it. But I also do think the injuries have a huge weight on it. And it's not even the fact that we have a lot injured now. It's just the consistency of injuries at that position. Christian hasn't been healthy for an entire season since he signed for Chelsea. So like, I want a winger to be healthy for a long period of time and play for a long period of time so that we can make those decisions. I also want to say, I thought Ziyech played pretty well against Crystal Palace. I thought he was making some good passes and breaking some lines. I still think he could be better. But you're right. You definitely bring up a good point. We consistently sign wingers and they consistently get hurt and don't perform. So, I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I also think we do need attackers right now with all of our injuries. João Felix is, I mean, yeah, it's a great signing, but the red doesn't help at all. And his 3-game suspension, like we need players. Like we're going to be playing in important games coming up that we need to get wins.
That's the problem in my opinion though with it is like, you guys are out of the title race 100%. Why not just like use this as a time to build
Champions League?
You guys aren't going to win that either. But why
Anthony Russo one
time. Why like looking, you can't not look ahead to the summer and think like, what happens if we keep signing guys to fill these holes and then we have to unload all these contracts for a huge loss in the summer? Like, why not just bite the bullet and play younger guys now, guys that don't get as much playing time, and just like
and
Probably
lose.
have more. That probably have more chemistry than just tossing.
Yes,
but that's
we
the thing.
tried. That's what we tried, and then you guys bagged us when we tried that.
Well,
we're gonna bag you either way,
and it was 6-0. I'm just
We-
saying
we
we need to buy
all-
players now as well, and then I think we will get rid of a bunch of players in the summer. Yes,
We've
I
all
think
been
a
in
gutting
ton of
that
money
tap.
on it.
situation. Like literally,
so I'm just-
every team that's in this chat has been in that situation where
I'm
we've been
confused
depleted
why
of
you guys are
players.
confused.
Well, yeah, it's confusing. And then also Potter came out with a statement this weekend
How are
and
you
said
confused
like,
if everyone's done it? Like every team goes through this.
no,
Every
no, 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 no,
manager goes through this,
I'm
every
saying
club goes through this.
we've all been depleted and chosen to play young players. That's
bought a
the
lot of
decision that we collectively have made. There, it wasn't so long ago that Liverpool's back line looked like an academy team. Like that's just what it was. And Chelsea has the opportunity to be in that same situation this year.
Yeah,
They go out and they buy $80 million players and then 1 for 100, and it's just wild. But what I was saying is Potter came out with a statement after the last game and said something to the extent of, we have to be really careful of buying players. And it was kind of like an indirect, me reading between the lines. I felt like maybe some of these signings are happening without Potter's like thoughts. United fans, we can look at Donny van de Beek, and allegedly Ole never even wanted him, that it was the Glazer signing, and
It happens all the time.
it happens all the time. But
I think Aubameyang and Sterling are.
yeah, exactly. So it's like
That's
it's just concerning, and like Elliot mentioned earlier, like doesn't give a fuck because like it's going to hurt Chelsea in the long run. But we've alluded to this summer sale, and it's going to have to happen because they can't keep that many guys. It's just really weird. But we talk about the same thing every week with Chelsea. With that, I think this game, Butchie, want to hear your thoughts for sure. But looking at like in FOTMob isn't everything, but looking at like the injured or unavailable list between the two teams is just like wild. It's like it's a list of world-class players that like just won't be on the field. But Butchie, what are your thoughts this weekend, man?
I think Nick and I are in a similar situation with our clubs where obviously we've hit the injury bug, but where we're similar is I think Chelsea has kind of a lack of identity to how they play right now because of the injuries. That could be a reason why. And I think the same thing is kind of happening to us because if you look at Liverpool in the past many years, like we've always had the Klopp philosophy of pedal to the metal football, right? Like that's what he's known for. You have not seen that at all. And I think the biggest reason why we haven't seen it is because we need a resurgence in our midfield. Like we need midfield signings so bad that we need to get guys that can run. We need to get guys that can press. We need to get guys that have a good passing range. We need to get guys that have, high IQs of football. And I hate to say it, but it's almost kind of like an era is ending. Like we sold Wijnaldum.
7 year.
It is. It is an era.
Like, I've like dreamed about hearing this stuff out of Butch's mouth before. Like, oh, that's beautiful, man.
Well,
keep going, Butch. Continue, my friend.
It has to be. I have to be realistic because
this is what Nicky should be saying.
Nick, take notes, brother.
Well,
what was I saying? Keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, like, watching Liverpool lose 3-0 to Brighton, who Brighton's a good side. But watching us lose in that fashion, we shouldn't get shut out like that. At least the Klopp teams of previous years should never get shut out like that.
Yeah.
And it just really opened my eyes to that midfield, man. Like Henderson is now, 30, 32 years old. He's definitely past his prime. Obviously we've got Fabinho, who's a shadow of himself. 2 years ago, I thought Fabinho was world-class, phenomenal midfielder, and now he just looks a shadow of himself. Thiago, I still think is our best midfielder, no question about it. Naby Keita, like we need to get these guys out that aren't going to help us get back to the pedestal, and we need to splash the bank in the summer. We don't need forwards, we don't need backline players, we don't need defenders, we don't need a goalie. We need a midfield. I would splash the freaking bank for Jude Bellingham. I would go all in, 150 mil minimum starting point for Jude Bellingham. Freaking get somebody else and get, two or three of these guys, get them out.
Can I ask you a question, Butch?
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff that I've been seeing on Twitter and TikTok and stuff about obviously the ownership group has, put the club up for sale. And I feel like every weekend or midweek, whatever it is, that Liverpool's not performing well, I'm seeing more and more of like people being like, get the ownership group out, get them out, get them out, get them out. Where do you stand on that?
It's a good question. I mean, I kind of stand right now to the point where we're mid-January, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to, no offense, Nick, I don't want to do what Chelsea's doing right now. I don't want to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessary for us. But we're January 16th, and we haven't signed anybody in January or in this window, and it's clear we're struggling.
Gakpo.
We have okay. I'm at midfield, sorry, but yes, you're correct. We signed Gakpo, but we need a midfield player. We have to get somebody. We can't get Jude Bellingham right now. So the ownership of the Liverpool ownership needs to step up and give Klopp a little bit of leeway here and say, here's a set budget for you. What player that you've scouted that you really like that can fit your system, that can help our club win games again? Who is it? And here's our limit for you. And I think that the longer it goes on, the more we're going to keep digging this hole. People are going to start blaming Klopp. People are going to start saying Klopp out, which should never happen because of what he's done for the club. It should never. He's almost gotten to the point where it's like Arsene Wenger, like he's been there 8 years and he's won every trophy you can win. So you shouldn't be saying that about somebody like that, right? But I want to avoid that situation. So, even if we get like a $30 to $35 million valued player, that's a good midfield player that could help our team, I will gladly do that.
Are you talking about in January? Because I think Klopp came out and said that there's not going to be any more signings in January.
Exactly. Yeah. That's saying that's what I want. But Klopp's already said we're probably not going to sign anybody, and that's the answer to Henry's question. That's the issue. Is the ownership is not. I know Liverpool's always been a club where we don't do what Chelsea's done right now. We don't spend hundreds of millions in one window. We don't ever do that.
Yeah.
But we have to think about, like, we're in 9th place. It's halfway through this. We're 9th place, man. And
it's not looking good, bruv.
We're talking about a Liverpool team that has been in the top 3 for the last 4 or 5 seasons straight. We won the league a few years ago. We won the Champions League. Like, dude, we need to reevaluate the situation. And I really hope that Klopp and the ownership can get a resolution here. We'll see.
Makes sense. What about thing go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, this is something that I was asked, obviously, from a Chelsea perspective, and want to hear Butch's side as well. So with you guys not making any more January signings and not doing what Chelsea does and buying a bunch of players right now, when you guys don't make the Champions League this year, how do you expect to sign Jude Bellingham if you're not going to be playing in those competitions moving forward?
Well, no, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, the honest answer to that is it very well could be that we don't get Jude Bellingham if we don't make top 4, right?
That's why I think us spending a shit ton of money right now, that's the reasoning, is because we want to make Champions League, whether that's us winning the Champions League outright or getting top 4. Like, we're trying to spend cash so we don't end up not being in that competition in the summer.
Yeah, well, I do agree with you, but earlier I mentioned how both of our teams, Chelsea and Liverpool, have kind of lost their identity. Yeah. I think you've lost your quite a bit more than Liverpool's lost theirs, though.
That's a fact.
I watched Chelsea.
I agree, but I also think that's due to how much bigger our injury list is than your guys'. Our lineup has been
much bigger, bro.
Every single day for 8. I think key players, yeah.
No, dude, we have
Virgil.
Okay,
Darwin,
out. Jota's out. Diaz is out.
All guys that are key to heavy metal football.
Nunez is hurt. So, like, 4 forwards.
I've only heard one.
Oxlade-Chamberlain, bro. Playing Oxlade-Chamberlain, bro.
I think the way that Liverpool
we've been playing teenagers and been getting dogs, so like,
but that just throwing it back. Eventually that just becomes like who you are. Like, injuries is a thing until that's just who you are until they're healthy.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're in a worse situation, because once our injuries get healthy, we will start getting that identity. I think that's when it'll start.
You know when that identity forms is a preseason.
True.
That identity.
We
That
don't have a
identity-
preseason.
That's where it's like you're expecting an identity. It's like you're bringing Mudryk in, you're bringing all these players who have never played together, and then you're going to bring in essentially a whole other group of players that haven't played together and just be like, here's your identity. So I think that like where Liverpool's in a better spot is, even though Liverpool's down right now, they're getting guys better. Liverpool's going to buy a player that fits Liverpool, and I think that's in the summer. Liverpool's going to buy a player that fits Liverpool. They're going to buy a player that fits. Nobody's questioning if Klopp's a good manager. Nobody is questioning if Klopp's a good manager. Klopp's a world-class manager. And I think the difference is in the summer, much like Elliot was talking about with Arsenal, like Arteta is extremely picky on who he signs because it changes the culture, it changes the dressing room, it could change the way you play. And I think that's where Liverpool is in a better spot because the signings mean one thing, but you have to be able to form a team. And I think that's what you've seen is like United had a preseason months and months together to where Chelsea's going to have guys come back and not necessarily going to have that. I'm not saying Liverpool is going to be good, but I think going into next summer, I genuinely think that Liverpool could be in a better spot than Chelsea because you guys have already spent 475 million. Like you guys going to go, if you do go drop another 200 and 250 million, FIFA fair play comes into,
and then we get out of it.
It all
like
comes to how much,
does.
all comes into how much revenue you make. And so that's where I think Liverpool's in a better spot because I truthfully think Klopp knows exactly the type of player that he wants to bring in because he can't do that now. I would rather bring in a player that fits Klopp's system than go buy somebody that's not proven. And that's the only reason I think Liverpool's in a better spot.
Yeah. And
we'll see. I disagree, but we don't have
I think that was really well said. And I think I'm not saying we're not saying that Mudryk's going to be a flop for Chelsea, right?
By no means. He's just a kid.
Yeah, he's a kid, man. But it's a big price tag, and like Dobe said earlier before we started recording, like he's played 40 games in the Ukrainian league. Like that should never in a million years warrant $100 million fee.
He needs time. He doesn't deserve to have to come in the Prem and perform instantly because he's young. He's a kid. He needs time to develop. We've seen how much pressure gets put.
It's like all these youngsters that we talk about that are getting, obviously he's a little older than a lot of these child prodigies that we talk about, but it's like a similar situation. Like he's super young kid, not a ton of experience, getting a massive contract to, the Prem, let alone, and now he's expected to go out and just
save Chelsea,
save them. It's Chelsea nonetheless. It's not like, a bottom. I mean, you guys are right now, but like, it's not like and that was
Big Six,
but it kind of was
Big Six club.
Yeah. That's a better way to put it. Like it's not like they're signing Wolves is signing someone for 100 mil and expecting them to save them. That's a lot different than Chelsea signing someone like that.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
You can go, Butchie.
I was just going to say one last thing before I stop is I genuinely think that it's our midfield signing in the summer is going to come down to three players. Okay. Jude. If we can't get Jude, we're going for Enzo Fernandez. If we can't get Enzo Fernandez, I think based on what I've been reading and watching in La Liga, Rodrigo De Paul is super unhappy and he's not playing.
Interesting.
He's not playing at all.
But new manager coming.
They do have a new manager.
Yeah, so that's the.
But I don't know if he becomes I could see. I love the way he plays. I think he would fit.
I love him, dude.
Bro,
He's
can you imagine
if he's a Klopp player, dude? And
if you all sign DePaul, Enzo, and McAllister, and you just throw Argentina's midfield into Liverpool's midfield,
I would be in absolute heaven.
It'd be nuts.
But yeah, I don't know. Nick, we got to dig ourselves out of this hole.
The one thing I wanted to say is why I disagree with why Dobes thinks Liverpool's in a better spot is I think it's when you look at the injuries and just the roster and you compare talents, I think Chelsea's side is more talented than Liverpool's. And I think with a new coach that doesn't have an identity already in that side, give him 5 months with everyone healthy so he can finally form an identity. That's why I think we're at a better spot than Liverpool because we're in that one step above them where we have the talent, we have the signings, we've spent the money. We just need time. That's all we need now is we need people to come healthy. We need a coach to have his side week in and week out. He's not having to decide, oh, we need to sign this guy to play in next week because we have injuries. Like once he gets time under him in a full healthy side, like I think we're in a better spot than Liverpool in that era and on that side.
Yeah, I guess it can go down to like what you value more. Do you want a coach that has a system that you know the system, or do you want the high talent? Like that's what it is with no direction. Like you can look at Arsenal as that blueprint where it's like Arteta's had a system and they went through years of finishing 8th.
Yeah. Years, man.
And I'm not saying that that's the right way to go. Like
but like you look at the differences between the two. You are correct, and you have so much talent. You have so many things like going for you in that way. But we won't see the Potter system until August of next year. Like we just won't see it because like he needs.
With you guys Champions League, you got to think that's 3 games a week. So like, how many training sessions that takes to like form a squad with new players.
One training session a week, probably with travel and everything.
Sounds like the Lafayette High School varsity team.
What I mean. Yeah, when you say 5 months, it's like I think like this is for Potter that starts like late July as they're traveling to wherever they go. Like I think that's where his time should reset is summer. Like obviously you want to go for Champions League, but like I think that's where Potter's like first real test begins, and you can actually judge him after he gets a full summer.
Right.
Yep.
With that being said, Hafey and Butch, what are your score predictions?
Yeah. I don't want to be as wild as Elliot's take that he had, which by the way, holy cow. I can't wait for us to clip that one.
We'll see.
I'm going 2-0 Chelsea.
I'll go 2-1 Liverpool. 2-1.
Don't think Liverpool could buy a goal recently, and hopefully
you guys have scored like 5 goals in your last 9
signing.
games.
I'm hoping our new signing in Kai will bag a couple of goals for us. So we'll see.
The only thing Kai Havertz is good at is dribbling the ball out of bounds. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that clip?
Yeah, with Felix just going straight down the middle of the field.
Felix is wide open, and he literally dribbles the ball out of bounds.
I know we gave a lot of shit last
but they're going to score
about Felix getting the red card. I'm so bummed about that, bro. He was so fun to watch in that first half.
He was the best Chelsea player in months.
It was
that first half. He was unbelievable.
He was unreal.
Yeah. It's the creativity that we have not had on our side for a while.
Just fun, like fun and flair. And
it's so true. We have a lot of simple, like minded players who like to play a simple pass.
Yep.
You know, do the dirty work. That's kind of our identity. But when João Felix, a creative mind player, or like Dobes was saying it before, like when Hazard was on the team, like having just someone who wants to like dribble, take people on, like that's definitely something we're missing. And we saw it with João in that first half. Right. And it does suck that he did get that red, because that just means we paid a lot of money for him to miss 4 games. So sick.
666,000 a game now.
Sick. But like I said before, I don't even care about money. Like, what's that? Huh? Spend more.
All right.
Factor cap time.
Factor cap, Gucci Mane.
Factor cap. We'll make it real quick, fellas. So obviously, I think most of you were texting that you watched the Barcelona game against Real Madrid yesterday when they beat Real Madrid 3-0 in the Super Cup. And I thought Gavi was unbelievable. By far player of the game, right? Man of the match. So he's 18. Okay, I was thinking about this today. He's 18 years old. Do you think it's a factor cap that he will win a Ballon d'Or in his career? Based on what he's doing now at such a young age, influencing games like that, a Clasico, you know.
Cap.
He ain't even the best. He ain't even the best younger center midfielder on his team. Pedri is clear.
Let me ask you. Okay, I agree that Pedri is a better player, but let me remind you of one thing. Okay, when Messi won his in 2010,
we're gonna put him in the same sentence as Messi right now.
No. No. Wait for the rest of the statement. I know where he's going with this.
Yeah, the second and third place that year was Xavi and Iniesta. Pedri and Gavi are the next quote unquote Xavi and Iniesta, right? And I think we could all sit here and say any other era that's not a Messi era, Xavi and Iniesta both win one.
Yeah, and I think it's the
Ronaldo's got 15.
Era, so that's why I think it's a cap. I think Haaland and Mbappe are going to go back and forth.
Okay, but he's 4 he's 6 years younger than Mbappe, and he's 4.5 years younger than Haaland.
I want so badly to say fact because I love that kid. You all know how much I love that kid. I'm a Gavi truther, always have been, always will be. Good. I just think that like the game from those award standpoints values goals and assists so much and like goal contributions. And Gavi is so fun to watch and he's a psychopath, but it's not like he's out there scoring all the time. And I think the Modric like Ballon d'Or was kind of like a one-off, and truthfully it was a one-off over the last 15 years, but like I just don't know if I'll see it happen just with like the game continuing to focus on like goals and assists and goal contributions.
Yeah, center back should win Ballon d'Ors more often.
I just think that just like Hen's saying, so much of even Pedri winning a Ballon d'Or like requires Barcelona to like be winning Champions Leagues titles, which I'm not saying they won't get back to, but like Barca's looked great this season, but like Busquets is going to be out. Some of these older guys are going to be out. And I trust Xavi because the way that you see them playing, they play brilliant. The reason I'm saying Cap is because he's just so young. Like, I just don't think that he deserves that amount of pressure. Not to say that he won't, but like Xavi and Iniesta, should have won it because they had Messi on their team. Like, those assists, everything that they were doing was built around, they were built to play with Messi. And so not saying in a center midfield, like won't win it, but like I can name, like I would take Jude Bellingham over either of them in terms of like who I would think would win a Ballon d'Or first. And so that's why I just think it's got to be Cap.
I just want it to be a fact so bad. I'm just like, that'd be so sick.
Winks? I think he's unbelievable.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Unbelievable player, and cool to see him and Pedri in the middle, tag teaming Real Madrid in that game. But yeah, with Mbappe and Haaland and these other youngsters that are also generational talents, scorers are just naturally more likely to win Ballon d'Ors, and it's going to be tough for him to do that with Pedri on his team, like we just talked about, but also with those two doing what they're doing in League One and in the Prem.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. I can see both sides. I don't know. Just part of me thinks like, I think at some point, both of them, Pedri and Gavi, they both have a shot. I think. Yeah. Like, there's no doubt. I think they'll both be on the podium at someday. You know what I mean? Like a top three. Like they'll be.
I agree with that.
And you never know what could happen. So
I do have some bit of worry though that Gavi's not going to stay at Barcelona. I think Pedri's locked in at Barcelona for a long time. I just have some weird feeling that like Gavi's going to leave.
I don't know. They're built to play for Xavi.
They are. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would love nothing more than to see that, but I just have a feeling that that's going to happen.
Dude, Gavi in Liverpool's midfield, sign me up.
It'd be wild.
Could you imagine Gavi's, dude, he's a psychopath. Could you imagine him going face to face, like just in the face of Harry Maguire? Just like
no, because Lisandro Martinez would fight him.
Maguire's going to be gone here pretty soon.
It doesn't matter. Maguire end up at freaking Aston Villa or wherever he's going, Bournemouth.
The third division.
Winks.
All right, gents. Well, Great Factor Cap Butchie Main. As always, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to the banter. Thanks again to Elliot from ArsenalVision for hopping on and joining us today. Follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And we will see you guys next up. Great job, fellas.
Cheers, fellas.
Appreciate it, boys. Cheers.
Cheers, fellas.